August of 2019 where as school started, he was having nausea and starting to get sick, every couple of days to every other day. And our initial thought was, well, maybe he's nervous about school starting. And nothing was showing up. There wasn't anything, concerning in his blood work. But then after a couple more weeks of that, we noticed he was starting to have balance issues. And I think that's when our worry really started to ramp up that, hey, there has to be something going on.
This kid is so coordinated.
Yep.
He's been able to do any sport that he wants his entire life. And, I just knew that it was something big.
I'll never forget, as the doctor came back, they started moving around furniture in the room next to us. And I knew that they were going to be delivering bad news.
Grant was our sweet boy. He was just kind-hearted and just had a sensitive soul. He meshed with every member of our family. Yeah, he gave the best hugs.
Medulloblastoma, it's a brain cancer, but they've learned so much more that there's really 4 subtypes. And the subtype that Grant had was the worst prognosis.
He said, we're gonna hit this really hard because we have to get this the first time. And we can get this, but if it comes back, we're gonna be having an entirely different conversation.
And it was going to be, right off the bat, surgery within a couple days to remove the tumor. Let the site heal a little bit. We would start with proton therapy, and he would do 6 rounds of that for 6 weeks, 5 days a week. And then we would start a chemo regimen, about six chemo treatments on a monthly basis. A week after receiving the pathology reports, he started having pain in his arms and pain in his body. And that night we learned that while the tumor had been removed from the brain, the cancer cells were in the spinal fluid, and he was starting to get tumors on his spine.
And our busy on the go boy could no longer move his legs.
Dr. Hummel got together and said, we need to move this proton therapy treatment up and start treating this cancer as soon as we can. And after about 2 weeks of that 6-week treatment, he started to have more comfort and started to move a little bit more. Following his proton therapy treatment, they do the post-radiation MRI, and the results were very positive. The tumor shrinkage on the spine and no new tumors. So going into chemotherapy, this is the stage that we want to be in going into that. Mm-hmm. And then a little more than a year post his initial diagnosis, in September of 2020, he started with leg pains. Their concerns from a year earlier were really all back, and Dr. Hummel met with us, and Grant's medulloblastoma had relapsed. And that takes us back to that initial conversation.
Yep.
They do everything they can do on the initial treatment, from radiation and chemo, and they can't redo that. They can't do that again.
Your brain, your spine can't take that kind of radiation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would have good days, but he would have tough days.
His last good day was Christmas, probably.
Mm-hmm. We had an MRI done that just kind of confirmed that there's not, at this point, it's the cancer had taken over.
What does Grant Wolf like?
Basketball.
What else does he like?
Football.
What else does he like?
Photo.
What else does he like?
Baseball.
We would have loved for him to have been able to fight the relapse and beat it and relapse again and just get more and more time with him, but that was not the plan for Grant. And
I think for me, one of the big things is just I don't want him to be forgotten.
We have to do good. We have to find a way to make a positive of this in honor of Grant, and then also I think as an example to Matthew and Julia that when bad things like this happen and this is a terrible thing, let's try to find a way to make something good out of it. And I think that was always in my head to set that example for them as well, that this is how you respond. This is how you respond to tragedy. The local community that we have, they lifted us up, during Grant's treatment, after Grant's passing.
They carried us through things that I don't think in a million years I would have thought that I could have survived. And from the initial diagnosis on, we call them Grant's Wolf Pack.
They've really mobilized with our fundraising, and have donated their time, donated their money, and worked with so much effort to, more than anything, raising awareness. It's important to raise the funds, and I think as a part of that, it's important to raise the awareness of what's needed for pediatric cancer research.
There weren't treatment plans in place. There weren't options of ways that we were able to fight it the second time. And so CancerFree Kids is trying to fund that research that's so desperately needed, so that there is a plan of attack for any child that's diagnosed with a cancer that's hard to treat, or that relapsed with a cancer that's impossible to treat.
FLASH is one of the most exciting developments, not just in radiation treatment, but in all of cancer therapy. That technology is really being just skimmed at the surface right now, and we've been really fortunate to lead research in FLASH globally at Cincinnati Children's.
The major difference between FLASH radiotherapy and conventional radiotherapy is FLASH radiotherapy is delivered 100 to 1,000 times faster. There's a window that you have to bring enough dose to cure the tumor, but the more dose you give, you increase toxicity. And so the whole goal of FLASH radiotherapy is to make that window as wide as possible, so that you can get as much dose, maybe more dose, to a tumor, increase your tumor control, increase your cure rate, while keeping toxicity the same, maybe even lower.
I was amazed when Grant was getting treatment. The chemotherapy drugs that he was being treated with it's adult chemotherapy drugs, and the protocol for medulloblastoma from a chemotherapy perspective hasn't changed in over 30, 40 years. It's the same treatment.
The future of FLASH is definitely to improve patients' lives, and that's what the clinical trials we're constructing are going to do. And it's because of this multidisciplinary effort at Cincinnati Children's and our partnership with organizations like CancerFree Kids that give us the ability to take these potential breakthroughs, study them, and get them from the lab to the bedside.
There's a significant gap in pediatric cancer funding. The NIH federal funding for pediatric cancer research, the pediatric slice of cancer research is 4%, and that's not enough. There's too big of a need. We're too far behind in the fight for cancer research and cancer outcomes, and the funding that CancerFree Kids provides, is helping those researchers bridge that gap between what they have and what they need, being able to provide them the resources to continue to investigate, to continue to look for better options. That gives us hope.
We miss Grant like every second of every day. There's this hole in everything that we do. But our hope is that someday no other family has to go through this. No other family knows this pain, or no other family doesn't have a plan when they are given a diagnosis.
I wish cancer wasn't a thing, and I wish nobody got it.